Good morning. This lesson is for my trig pre-calc class, but before I get started, I want to say I hope that everyone's doing all right up there. I'm not sure how I'm going to title this. I'm going to title it how I titled the title. But what I am sure of is our one goal for the day. And this goal is the introductory lesson of writing the domain and the range for a graph. I should have written that, so I had to improvise it. But anyways, this basically means we're going to explain what we see on a graph and then make it mathematical. Students struggle writing the domain and range for a graph because we look at it purely mathematical. And if we actually explain what we see using simple words and then we turn it into a mathematical statement, I think we're going to have a lot more success. So let's just go ahead and jump into the tools that we need to do this. We have some horizontal vocabulary. This symbol, which you know as less than, I'm going to call it the symbol for left of. This symbol is the symbol for right of, which you call greater than. This is what you call less than or equal to. I'm going to call it left of or at. This is greater than or equal to you. I'm going to call it right of or at. And again, this is about horizontal vocab. And let's review. Domain is a horizontal description of a graph. So we're going to talk about left and right. We use X when making a horizontal description. Okay, let's talk about our vertical vocabulary. You call this less than, I call this below. You call this greater than, I call this above. You call this greater than or equal to, I call this below or at. You call this greater than or equal to, I call that above or at. Again, this is our vocabulary for vertical vocabulary. And to me, I think I understand the concept of above and below a little bit better than greater than or equal. And let's again review. Range is a vertical description of a graph. We use Y when making a vertical description. Now I want to talk about one more thing. These symbols for horizontal and these symbols for vertical, those are represented by an open circle. These symbols for horizontal and these symbols for vertical, those are represented by a closed circle. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to describe what we see using words, and then we're going to come and make it more mathematical. And hopefully this helps us succeed at writing domain and ranges for graphs. So let's look at our first example here, and we're going to describe the following graphs. The domain and range, I should have put that in the direction, but that's okay. I'm not filming this again. All right, so I'm looking at my graph, and I'm going to talk about my graph horizontally. To me, this graph is left of or at positive 2. It's left of or at positive 2. And this graph is below or at positive 3. Now I've described what I see, and now I'm going to make it more mathematical. So when I'm making a horizontal description, I use X, and so I'm going to say X is left of 2. That is the mathematical domain. So the domain of this is X is left of 2. Now the range, again, which is my vertical description of the graph, I'm below or at 3, so I'm going to make this mathematical. And I use a Y when I'm making my vertical description. So Y is below 3. So the range is Y is less than 3, or Y is below 3, or the graph is below 3. Or at, oh, I made a mistake. It's or at. There we go. Now it's correct. I don't have to re-record this thing. All right, so that is an example of me writing the domain and range for this graph. So you've seen what I've done. I would highly recommend you hit pause. Try this one and see if we agree. So go ahead and hit pause and give it a shot. You don't learn unless you try. Hopefully you hit pause and I'm back. All right, so I'm going to describe this graph. Well, to me, this graph goes to the right of negative 2. So we're going to go to the right of negative 2. Now, I'm not at negative 2 because it's an open circle, but I'm right of negative 2. Now, my vertical description is my graph is above 0. So we are above 0. And again, I'm going to make this more mathematical. So for my horizontal description, I'm going to say that x is right of -2. That's my domain. So again, I'm hoping that a description of what we see using familiar terms allows us to transition into the mathematical description. So the domain is x is greater than 3, or the graph is right. The graph is right of -2. Sorry, I don't know where I got a 3 from. Oh, the previous problem. All right, so the graph is right of -2. My graph is above 0. And again, it's not at, so I can't use it. So my graph is above 0, so my range, using a vertical description, so it's a y, so my y is above 0. Right? This is the domain and range that describes this graph mathematically. But I got there by being able to describe what I see using words that I know. And then again, this is where I think students really struggle, is we try to just do this without simplifying it first and then transitioning to that. So hopefully this is making a little bit more sense to you. Got one more example and then I'm done. The third problem. So why don't you hit pause and try and do this one on your own. Hopefully you hit pause and try it on your own. I hope you hit pause, because if you did, you tried it, you're going to get more out of it than watching me do it. So hopefully you did, and I'm back. All right. So let's talk about the horizontal vocab, the horizontal description. Well, to me, this graph is left of 2. All right. Now this part's a little tricky. My graph is below or at +2. And it's at +2 because every dot on this graph is a closed circle. So we are below or at 2 for my vertical description. Not -1, because the graph goes above -1. The graph is below +2. All right, so again, let's make this more mathematical. The domain is, using my x and describing what I have, my x is left of 2, so the domain, x is less than 2, if you want to say it very mathematically. And my range using y, my y is below or at +2. All right, so hopefully this is helping you write the domain and range of a graph. Now there's going to be a couple more lessons about this, but this is the introduction lesson. So the range is y is below or at +2. All right, so this should also help us with chapter 2, homework 2. And I'm sorry I didn't get this video made yesterday. We had back to open schoolhouse night, which took up all my time, but I got it made today. So I'm going to go ahead and end this here. Again, I hope everyone is doing all right out there. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.